Before we get into the video, if you're looking for top quality sample packs, preset packs and templates for your music production, they're entirely royalty free. You can use them in your own productions and learn from them. If you're interested, check out the link in the description and enjoy the video. What's good people? So bbrights and I am back for a brand new video. Today I'm working on episode 9 of my W&W from start to finish. We're almost done with this series, we've got a couple episodes left. In this episode we're going to be working on the second drop. Last episode we finished by making this drop 2 melody. We're going to be working on that, layering that up a bit more. Also in this episode I want to add a pre-drop vocal, and again I mentioned in the last episode, I also want to add a bit more body to the original drop. So if you listen to the original drop here, it sounds a bit thin. Someone in a previous tutorial mentioned maybe to add another layer onto this, just to give it a bit more body, since I've taken out too much low end in the original drop synths, just so we can add a bit more power to that. And then lastly, just to polish the last drop, add a bit more power, maybe add like a drop hoover, some small extra effects just to make the second drop more powerful and hit harder. That is pretty much the main points I want to hit on this video. But as usual, I'm going to play through what I have so far to refresh everyone's memory. And then yeah, we'll get straight into it. So I hope you enjoy, and let's go. This is what I have so far.
I like the beat get ready to rock the bass up to the top. Bass up to the top. Bass up to the top. I like the beat get ready to rock the bass goes to the boys. Super duper fly, 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 fly,
That's what we have so far. Like I said, we need to work on the drop 2 melody a bit more. It's sounding a bit weak. I just thought as well in the second 4 bars here, just add a bit more energy and tension. We could pitch up the synths or drop synths in the last 4 bars. So I think I might do that as well. But yeah, that is what we have so far. So let's get on with it. And we're going to start with adding a pre-drop vocal. So I'm going to start by adding just a reference pre-drop vocal. I'm just going to use Cashmere Volume 3. Maybe like just like a 1, 2, 3 pre-drop vocal, just to fill in the gap. And then we'll come to replace that later. I'm thinking of using something similar to this.
super duper fly.
Similar to the actual W&W remastered version, the 2018 version. There's something similar to that. Just it will fit and suit more of a W&W style. So they sometimes use Cashmere vocals, but it's not really their go-to with their tracks. But for now, we're just going to use a Cashmere one just to fill in the gap, so we have something there to lead us into the second drop. And then we're going to polish that and make it a proper final pre-drop vocal in the final episode. So for now, it's going to vocals and then numbers. I think it's numbers, words and phrases, and there you go, numbers.
3. 1,
2, 3, let's go.
1, 2, 3, come on.
1, 2, 3, let's go. 1, 2.
If we use this one here, we're going to pitch it down a little bit just to give it a bit more menacing and a bit more aggressive. And it's in 128, so we're good to go.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Turn the out knob up a bit like that. Then we're going to add this in right here.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
And if I'm not mistaken, that sounds like it's in G. Some people can't really hear tonality in pre-drop vocal shouts, so they might just think it's not in a key. But it actually is very important to have in the same key. If I pitch it down a couple semitones, you might hear that it sounds a bit off.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Like that might sound good to someone. It doesn't sound bad, but it's not ideal. If you can get it in the right key, if I play it again in the original format it came in, you might be able to hear it fits with the track very nicely.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
I'm not sure if the G tune will identify the key. G tune is a free plugin that I use to identify keys if I need to figure out a bass line. It's a free plugin.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Maybe if you pitch it down 1. There you go. Now you can hear it perfectly. That's in G.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
So you can definitely hear now that is in the key of G. If we just use this big snare, for example, to hit on the last beat there.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Yeah, so we'll use that just for now. I will turn it down just a little bit more. Fills in the gap to lead to the second drop. Another thing I want to do is add just something for the second drop. I'm thinking of a very subtle drop hoover. I apologise for using Cashmere. It's there, it's helpful, so why not use it? It's the best of the best. So I'm just going to go into his volume 2, go to effects. If I can get it, there we go. Go to drop hoovers. So we could use the one pitched in G already, so we don't have to change anything. I want it to be very subtle, I don't want it to be too aggressive.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Let's mute the drop synths quickly, so we can get a better understanding of how this fits in.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Is that in G? It is. Sounds a little off. Maybe we'll try the E one and we'll pitch it up 3 semitones. There you go, that sounds a lot better. Also, apologise if you can hear banging or drilling in the background. There's some workers working on a neighbour's house. So I do apologise for the audio quality if you get hear any banging or annoying sounds. I do apologise for that. But we move and add this into the mixer slot here because we need to add some sidechain to it so it doesn't clash with a kick. So I'm going to add some very subtle sidechain, the high chain one around 70%. Need to get rid of it at the end of each 8 bars, just because we have the chord fill here. And of course with the dominator and some other effects, we don't want it clashing with that. You're probably not going to hear it anyway, but just in the background, if we add a small stereo enhancer as well, just so we can a little bit of width on the S1. And what I'm going to do is reset the volume on here so we can change the volume on the actual mixer knob here. There we go. So next on the list for today's episode is just to add an extra bit of layer and tonality to the kick, just add a bit more power. So in last episode we decided to pitch the kicks in the 4th bar here. To me it sounds off just because this is cut from WW's song, or their alias New Year's Song's Time Spiral. So there's a small reverb tail in this. If I take off all effects on this kick, you will hear. You hear the reverb tail, and it's actually a chord. If anyone's not familiar, you can't really pitch chords to a different key, because say for example you're pitching G minor and you're pitching it down, the notes in G minor will not necessarily fit with the key you're in. So for example, I'll pitch it down 4 semitones, that will go to D sharp, and D sharp minor isn't in the key of G sharp major, if you get what I mean. So because of that, we have to take off some of the high frequencies and use it just for a sub layer, and because of that we're losing that power that we need from the kick. So we're just going to go through a Cashmere pack and go through these bigger kicks and see if we can find a kick drum that we could use for an extra substitute layer for power. So if we go into volume 3 and then also go through volume 2 as well, just see what we have. I'd rather find a kick that's in G so we don't have to pitch it. The maximum I'll go is around 3 semitones. Any more than that is sort of is pushing it. It's not bad. Obviously rules are made to be broken in music, but you know, it's not ideal. That's a decent one there. That's more of a tremor kick. Martin Garrix. That's Animals. Let's quickly check volume 2, see what the big kicks in volume 2 has to offer. There might be a good one in there. Usually Cashmere's kicks in E are quite good. E and F or F minor is his favourite key, so usually F is his favourite or his best kick. So let's see what he has in here. That's a very nice one. So that's an E. So again, I did say maximum is around 3 semitones. I got pitched up 3. So let's try this one here. If we pitch this up 3 semitones from E to G, if we do that, there you go, 300 cents. And if we stretch it, That sounds very good. Actually, I quite like that one. And of course, we don't need the punch because we have the punch here. We don't need any of that. So we're just going to add this in to. There you go. We've got a lot of layers for a kick here. So don't be ashamed to use a lot of layers for a kick. Creates a unique sound. Not everyone can recreate this, of course, unless they use the same samples. That is. So bring these down a little bit so we can add this kick in. And then we're going to add this in, EQ this accordingly, take the sub out because we don't need it, and just use the frequency that we want. Just add an extra bit of layer to the kick. So now I've got this kick in the mix, so I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because it is very, very loud. And then we're going to go over to one of the kicks in the previous thing here. We're going to copy the LFO tool from this, and then we're going to scroll over, click the down arrow, hold save preset as, click and drag and drop onto channel, and it will copy the LFO preset. There we go. Now it's got rid of the punch. Now we're going to add an EQ to take out these sub frequencies. And then we're going to do a small dip in around 130 Hz, just get rid of that, some of that extra bit of frequency, because like I said, we have a lot of kick layers here, so we don't want any frequencies clashing. We just want to use the frequencies from this kick to add to the kick, not mess up the kick. You can see if I boost it here. It's a very resonant frequency if you're too aggressive with it. And then around the 1000 to like 1500 Hz range, if we just do a dip like that, quite aggressive, because it adds a bit more air to the kick. And let's see how this fits in with the kick here. See what we've got here. Go through one by one. Let's start with a punch. Not sure why that was pitched up half a semitone. Not sure if I've done that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is in G, so I'm not sure that was why it was like that. I think the other ones like this. They are. Very weird. And let's see with so these three are the tonality layers. I'm going to mute the kick on and off, see if you can hear any noticeable difference. Just see if it is making changes.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
So it's definitely doing something. Maybe if we turn it up just a tiny bit.
1, 2, 3, let's go! 1, 2, 3, let's go!
And of course we need to pitch it here because these kicks are pitching as well, it will clash. So I'm going to do that quickly, and then we'll just finalize this kick, get it mixed in with the track. Then we can move on to adding and working on the drop synths on the second drop. So it's going pretty well so far. It sounds a bit messy, but you know, it's always good to get an idea down, and then you go through at the end of the process once you've made the track and go through and polish it, get the mix down right, and that's when you focus on the details of the mix down and the actual ear candy and actually making sure you finalize the track perfect. So it does sound a bit messy, and I apologize for that, but that will be in a later episode where we go through and clean up the track. But the actual kick itself, after I finalized it and mixed it in perfectly, it now sounds like this. So I just had a small fruity fat disc. I think I used the warmth preset, just tweaked it a little bit, and then it sounds like this now. It doesn't do too much, it's not too aggressive, it's not an aggressive distortion, it just gives it a bit more tonality, a bit more aggressiveness to the kick. And I've also muted this kick here. It seemed to be interfering with this kick here. I'm not sure they was working well together, but regardless, now the kick sounds like this. Like I said, it is a bit messy, and I apologize for that, but this is what I have now.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
So it fits in, it's just a little muddy, it's not perfect, but the general idea is there. Now what I want to do is go through and add an extra layer to these drop synths here, because if I play them, if I get up an EQ, so you can see the frequency spectrum. So we need like some sort of lead that enhances around this frequency range here. Around a 240 range. Just to give it a bit more body. It sounds a bit empty at the moment, so we're going to go through now. I do still have the MIDI files from the very first episode. That was the first one. So if anyone's not familiar, these are drop melodies I made in episode 1 or 2. I was going through making drop melodies and then I chose my favourite one and I come up with this one here. So this is the MIDI file that we used, and of course we bounced it into audio to save CPU because my laptop was going crazy. But we can actually use this, find another lead, and then we can bounce that out, add that in, and then we can add a bit more body to the leads just to give it a bit more power. And then we can get moving on to the second drop lead and the second drop. So I've used Silent Fear. I'm using a lead called Cracking. I'm assuming it's from the Martin Garrix remix he did back in like 2013 or 2014. I'm just using it to create a bit more body to the lead. I've added a lower octave bass notes here, so it sounds like this. So these just add a little extra warm frequencies and mid frequencies to the lead. And what I'm going to do now is just paste the MIDI here. We're going to right click the pattern on the pattern browser here on the left side. We're going to right click and we're going to click Quick Render as Audio Clip. And that will render inside FL Studio. And then now, if we go to our audio thing, we scroll to the bottom, we should have an audio called Drop Lead Body. There it is. It's a dry signal at the moment. And we're going to chop off this section here because we don't need it because there's a drop fill. We're going to do the same thing where we do that. Like that. Now if we solo it again and play it. Then what we're going to do now is scroll back to the start and we're going to link this to the group here. So we're going to go right click and click route to this track only. So now we get all the effects here, just so we've got the same reverb, just so we have the same things across the board so it doesn't get messy and complicated. And then I'm going to add a sound goodizer of my own. I'm going to use the B preset. If you can hear the other ones, make it a little more brighter, a little more enhanced. This gives it a bit more body and a bit more mid frequencies. So if I play it without, you'll hear it. Just tightens it up a little bit more. And then what we're going to do now is add an EQ. And we're going to boost these frequencies just a tiny bit. And then we're going to boost these 200 Hz or around there, just a little bit as well. And then we're going to mix these in with the existing drop leads. And then what we're going to do now as well is we're going to paste this here. And we're going to chop off the first and third bar, just so we can keep this bit here. And now we have this in the second drop as well, just so we can have continue that extra frequencies and the extra layer we just added on the second drop there. What I'm thinking of doing as well is I might make a duplicate of this, like this, and click Make Unique, and then drop it down an octave. And then pitch this, turn this down a little bit. And then, yeah, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to take off the second and fourth bar. There we go. So now overall, the drop leads with the extra layer added, we're going to do a bit more processing on it. We might add a Camel Crusher just to beef it up a little more. So let's see if we get out a Camel Crusher now, and then see what it does to the actual sound while it's all muted. We're going to use the British Clean preset. We're going to turn down the mech and turn down the mix level on the master, and then turn it down on here because it's going to get loud. So that's added some nice amount of body to the lead. Let's play it with the kick drum and the actual whole drop, see what it sounds like now. Yeah, so it's sounding pretty good. Now if we play it with the second drop as well.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
So I'm happy with that. We can move on now. We're going to move on to layering the drop 2 melody here. It seems to be getting quite heavy with the CPU, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. But we don't want to go too aggressive with the leads as well, right? Like I said, we might substitute some of these leads that we use in drop 1 just so we can get the same sound. But we might add a lead or two as unique to the lead, just so it sounds a little different. So I was listening through and I was noticing that this WW kick, there was still a frequency that I didn't cut away enough, and it seemed to be clashing with the kick I've added earlier in the episode. So if I go to the WW kick at the beginning here, I'm going to play you it before of what I've done. So originally it was like this. And around this frequency here, you can still very subtly hear the reverb and the actual like bleed over of reverb and synth in the original song. Because like I said, it was cut out from their song Time Spiral. I believe this frequency was clashing with the kick I was adding before. So what I've done is I've just brought it forward a bit. Like that, so it's a lot more muffled, you can't really hear the reverb tail anymore. And then now it sits well a lot more with that kick. So if I play it now, you'll be able to hear. So now I've done that, next I'm going to create a reverb carry because I completely forgot in the previous episodes that I haven't created a reverb carry. And I noticed the reverb was getting quite a bit messy and aggressive, it was overpowering a lot of the drop. So I'm going to create a reverb carry next and then we can move on. I've just made a reverb carry for the drops. I have showed in previous episodes and a lot of tutorials on how to create reverb carries. Check out my tips and tricks and 3 tips on reverb carries and how to make cleaner reverbs if you want to know how I've done this. Just to skip some time because I don't want to take up time for something I've already showed multiple times. But yeah, if I go to just below the drops, I've created a reverb carry here. So I'll do a quick run through of how I've done it. So I've just created a silent. It's an init preset, regular saw. You add it to the mixer. So on the mixer is just a Fruity P controller, you mute the signal and you turn it up to full volume. Then you go to your reverb that you want to automate, which is for me is in the group. You right click, link to controller, internal controller, and you choose the peak. So you can see it's reverb carry and you want to choose the peak control dash peak. And then you want to change the mapping formula to inverted and then you accept it. And then when you play it, if I play it now, if I just solo these drop leads again. You can see it ducks, gives the reverb a lot more space, a lot cleaner reverb, doesn't clash over a lot and makes a messy mix. I've also made a MIDI here for this drop melody here because it's obviously the second drop melody. So now we've got a reverb carry, it's a lot cleaner reverb and it's now sounding a lot better. So next I'm going to move on to end the episode of layering drop 2 melody, getting 2 or 3 more sounds, and yeah, we can move on to that now. So let's go. So because my laptop is dying from CPU issues at the moment, I had to pause the recording because otherwise it was just unbearable to watch. It was constantly lagging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what presets I've chosen for the drop 2 melody, just so I can at least show you what I've got so far. Obviously I can't really show you what I had before, it was just lagging so bad. So I've got 3 layers here, 2 of them are duplicates of the drop 1 melody. So what I've done here is I've duplicated this one here, which is a lead from Spy called Lead Lake from the Revealed. And I've also duplicated the one from Silent, which is Feels Like W&W. Similar sounding, and then this is a new one from Silent, it's just from the Revealed Silent leads, it's called HP Source, sounds like this. So what I've done here, as you can see, I've duplicated it and linked it to its own mixer track. So the reason I've done this is because if you go to the original track that it was linked to and mixed to, it's already linked. So if I mix this or add any Camel Crushers or distortions, it's going to affect the original one here. And we don't want that. So if you remember in the previous episodes, close to the start, we processed the original ones and bounced them to save CPU. So just duplicate it so we get the same sound, linked it to its own mixer and just done some simple processing, which is just a Camel Crusher, British Clean preset, and an EQ, and it links to the original group with the same reverb and the same Camel Crusher and EQ and stuff like that. Same with the W&W lead, I've done the exact same, and the final lead is just an EQ, cutting off some of the high ones. So if I solo this drop lead 3, quite aggressive on the high end, so we don't really need it that much, so I just took some of it off. And all 3 leads together sound like this. It's quite aggressive, quite nice, very nice sounding. So after I've done that, the next thing I've done was I soloed the drop 2 melody, and I've just soloed the original drop leads that we have right here. So I went on the master and looked at where it was hitting dB wise. And it was hitting around -6. So I made sure that the drop leads to melody was hitting around -6 as well. So they're hitting around -6 as well, just sort of at the exact same volume, so it sounds natural, it sounds perfect. So overall now, if it doesn't lag, I'll play you it now, it sounds like this. So that is that. Another thing I want to say before I end this part is the reverb carry that I've used for the drop lead 2. I've also copied it over to the drop fill, so if I play this now, the reverb tail from this is ducked from this reverb carry, so it gives more space for the chord fill. So if I play this now, you'll hear it. So you heard it being ducked from this carry here. It just gives more space for the chord fill and doesn't have a messy reverb. So that is that. And yeah, we can move on. So I've made a bounce of the second boot up and the second drop, just so we can use it as a reference in the next few episodes without any CPU lags. So I'm going to play through this so you can actually hear it properly without any lags or spikes. And then we can end the episode there. So I hope you enjoy, and let's go. So yeah, that is that. After listening to it bounce without any lags or any issues, there is a few things I want to do with the drop leads, make them a bit more polished, a bit more sound like one. And it sounds like these sections here are missing a tiny bit of high frequencies, but we can change that in the next episode just by making some adjustments to here and adding some EQs and boosting the high frequencies a bit more and balancing them out perfect. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave this episode here. Next episode, we're going to clean up the drop leads, add the small little details and fix up the mix, because we're almost at the end. We've got about maybe 2 episodes left, maybe 3, and then I'll be giving the FLP out at the end of the series. But yeah, we're going to end this episode here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate it. I've got a new episode of my PS1 Fake Friends from Scratch coming soon as well. On August 14th, I have a new album coming out. It's a synthwave album, 10 tracks. So I hope you enjoy that. It's a genre I love producing outside of EDM, so I hope you love that. And that's going to be out August 14th. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe, produce music, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Take care.